The idea that emotional imprint matters more than physical presence is one of the most overlooked yet powerful concepts in human connection. When it comes to forming lasting attraction, it's not how often you're seen, how much time you spend with someone, or how constantly available you are that creates deep attachment. It's the feeling you leave behind when you're no longer there. This emotional residue, if positive, intriguing, and warm, has the power to echo in someone's mind long after the interaction has ended. Think about the people who have stayed in your memory. Chances are it's not the ones who were always around, constantly messaging or inserting themselves into your life. It's the ones who, in a brief moment or meaningful conversation, made you feel something unique, something you hadn't felt before. That's emotional imprinting. It's a combination of presence, energy, timing, and emotional resonance. You become unforgettable not because you're always physically there, but because you gave them a moment they can't recreate with anyone else. This isn't about manipulation or performing. It's about showing up authentically and being emotionally intentional. When you're present, be fully present. Speak in a way that reaches deeper than surface level small talk. Listen with the kind of attention that makes someone feel seen. Share insights, stories, or even silence that shifts their internal world, even if just slightly. That's how you create an imprint. And once it's there, your presence lingers in their memory far more powerfully than someone who's physically present but emotionally forgettable. Ironically, trying to be around all the time can dilute your emotional impact. If every moment is filled, none of them feel special. It's the same reason we value rare art, limited edition books, or unforgettable songs. Scarcity amplifies appreciation, but it's not just scarcity, it's meaning. What you say, how you look at someone, how you handle tension or vulnerability, these are the brushstrokes of an emotional masterpiece. What's even more fascinating is that the brain tends to replay emotionally charged moments, especially when the person who created them isn't immediately accessible. When someone is no longer in front of you, but their energy still echoes in your mind, that's when obsession begins to take root. Not the unhealthy kind, based in insecurity, but the magnetic pull created by emotional impact. So rather than striving to be constantly present, aim to be memorably present. Let each interaction carry depth, sincerity, and a sprinkle of mystery. Don't focus on filling time. Focus on creating moments that stick. Because when someone walks away from you and still feels you, an intrigue is the seed of obsession. The moment someone believes they've fully figured you out, they stop thinking about you. There's no more curiosity pulling them in. But when there's a layer of you they can't quite access, a question they haven't answered, an energy they can't pin down, that's when they start to wonder. And wondering is powerful. It means they're mentally replaying your conversations, analyzing your energy, filling in the blanks with imagination. You become a mental puzzle they want to solve, a presence they can't shake. Now, this isn't about being deceptive or withholding. Mystery isn't the same as manipulation. It's not about hiding who you are. It's about revealing yourself gradually, like a story unfolding one chapter at a time. You don't need to tell someone your whole life story in one sitting. You don't need to text back immediately every time. You don't need to be predictable. Instead, allow people the joy of discovering you over time. The human brain is wired to crave resolution. But when something or someone isn't immediately resolvable, it becomes far more stimulating. People chase what they can't quite catch. If they always know where you are, what you're doing, how you feel about them, they lose the drive to pursue. Predictability breeds comfort, yes, but it also breeds complacency. Attraction, on the other hand, thrives in uncertainty, not the kind of uncertainty that causes insecurity, but the kind that makes someone lean in with curiosity. And when they're not sure exactly what you will say next, or what you're thinking, or where your attention is focused, they stay mentally engaged. That tension That sense of there's more to this person is what keeps their thoughts circling back to you. Mystery also gives you power. When you're not broadcasting your every thought, when you don't always explain yourself, when you leave just enough unsaid, you give people the opportunity to imagine. And the imagination is often more powerful than reality. What they think you might be can become even more compelling than who you are in full view. You become larger than life, not because you're faking it, but because you're letting your presence build in their mind. So if you want to become mentally captivating, resist the urge to overexpose, share yourself in layers, keep a little unpredictability, allow silence, let others reach for you a bit. Because when someone is never quite sure they fully have you, they'll keep coming back for more. So if you want to become mentally captivating, resist the urge to overexpose, share yourself in layers, keep a little unpredictability, allow silence, let others reach for you a bit. Because when someone is never quite sure they fully have you, they'll keep coming back for more. That's the psychological power of mystery, and that's how desire is kept alive long after you're gone. Authentic confidence is one of the most powerful forces in human attraction, and yet it's often misunderstood. Many mistake confidence for arrogance, loudness, or dominance. But true confidence is none of those things. It's not about proving your worth, performing for attention, or trying to outshine others. Real confidence is calm, grounded, and deeply rooted in self-respect. It's quiet in the way a mountain is quiet. It doesn't need to speak to be noticed. When you embody that kind of presence, you become magnetic without even trying. At the core of this kind of confidence is emotional independence. You don't become mentally captivating by trying to win someone over or by constantly seeking reassurance. You become captivating when you hold the belief that you are whole and complete regardless of who chooses you. That energy is incredibly attractive because it communicates that your sense of self isn't fragile. It isn't swayed by outside opinions. You don't need someone to pick you. You want connection, but not at the cost of your own dignity. That's the difference. People are naturally drawn to those who don't chase validation. When someone senses that your happiness isn't dependent on their response, their attention, or their affection, it creates a dynamic shift. Suddenly, they're the ones leaning in. Why? Because there's power in emotional detachment. Not coldness, but the ability to stay centered, whether someone shows up or not. You're not rattled. You're not begging for love. You are love, and you radiate it from within. This kind of confidence also creates safety. It tells the other person, I know who I am, and I don't need to impress you to feel worthy. That makes others feel free too. It's not performative. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up fully as yourself, flaws, strengths, quirks, and all, and still standing tall. That authenticity disarms people. It gives them permission to be real too. And that's rare, that's memorable. That's how you begin to live in someone's mind, not as an idealized fantasy, but as someone whose presence feels refreshingly real in a world that often feels filtered and fake. When you walk into a room with self-assurance, when you speak with clarity and don't over-explain yourself, when you can enjoy your own company and are selective with your energy, those things are noticed. Even if no one says it out loud, they feel it. And what people feel is what they remember. You don't need to shout your worth. You just need to embody it. That energy lingers long after a conversation ends, leaves people thinking there's something different about them, something solid. And that difference, that unwavering belief in yourself is what turns heads and stays in minds. You're not trying to become someone's obsession by pretending to be more. You're becoming unforgettable by being fully you. That's not just confidence, it's power. And that power is impossible to ignore. Possessing value is one thing. Communicating it effectively is something else entirely. Many people walk through life with incredible qualities, kindness, intelligence, humor, emotional depth, but they remain unnoticed, not because they aren't valuable, but because they don't know how to show that value in meaningful, memorable ways. Attraction is not just about who you are on paper. It's about how you present, express, and embody those qualities when it counts. In relationships, especially in the early stages, people can only respond to what they see and feel, not what you quietly know you have within you. The world doesn't reward hidden brilliance. It responds to energy, expression, and presence. You could be thoughtful and emotionally intelligent, but if you shrink yourself in conversation, avoid eye contact, or never speak with certainty, that value stays hidden. You could be funny, but if your humor only comes out when you're alone or nervous, others might never witness it. You can have high standards and strong boundaries, but if you constantly compromise them to please others or avoid conflict, no one will ever know where your worth truly lies. It's not enough to just have value. You must learn to own it, express it, and let it be seen. This doesn't mean you should brag or perform. In fact, the most powerful displays of value are often subtle, but they're unmistakable. It's in the way you speak with intention instead of trying to fill silence with empty words. It's in the way you say no with grace but firmness instead of apologizing for your standards. It's in the way you express enthusiasm without overreaching, listen deeply without needing to dominate, and share your story, not to impress, but to connect. These are the moments where your true worth shows, not through perfection, but through clarity and presence. Confidence without value can come off as arrogance, but value without confidence gets ignored. The sweet spot is when your inner worth is matched by outer expression. When someone leaves a conversation with you and thinks they were different, they knew who they were, you've succeeded in communicating value. And that impression doesn't fade quickly, it lingers. It leads them to reflect on what made you stand out. It makes them want to come back and experience that presence again. Too often, people believe that if someone really cares, they'll just see their worth. But human connection doesn't work that way. We're wired to respond to emotional cues, body language, tone, and presence. If you're always downplaying yourself, trying not to be too much, or waiting for the right moment to speak your truth, you may be unintentionally silencing your own impact. That's not humility, it's hiding. So don't just be valuable, show your value. Let people experience it in your voice, your boundaries, your passions, and your standards. When you show up fully and unapologetically, your value speaks for itself, and that's what makes people remember you long after you've left the room. Strategic withdrawal is a powerful psychological tool in creating emotional depth and lasting attraction. It's not about playing hard to get or manipulating someone's attention. It's about understanding the natural rhythm of desire and giving space for feelings to mature, grow, and intensify. When you're constantly present in someone's life, when you're always available and always engaging, your presence can start to lose its emotional weight. The brain adapts to what is consistent. It begins to take for granted what is always there. But when you step back intentionally and with self-respect, you give the other person space to fill your absence. And that space is where emotional reflection begins. Think of it like music. Music isn't just made of sound, it's made of pauses, rests, silence between the notes. Without space, the melody becomes noise. In human connection, withdrawal creates that space. It gives the other person a moment to notice what they're feeling when you're not around. Do they miss your energy? Do they think about the last thing you said? Do they feel the pull to reach out? These questions don't arise in constant presence, they arise in absence. People only begin to truly value something when they have the chance to miss it. That's not a flaw, it's human nature. Emotional intensity often grows not in the presence of the person, but in the longing for them. When you step back, even briefly, it allows the relationship, or the potential for one, to breathe. It gives both people the opportunity to evaluate whether the connection has real substance or if it was just convenience. And if your presence had any meaningful emotional impact, the withdrawal will amplify that. It will linger in their thoughts. It will bring clarity about what you meant to them But withdrawal must be done with the right intention. It's not a punishment, not a tactic to create fear or insecurity. It's a way to protect your own energy, to recalibrate, and to observe how the other person responds in your absence. Do they reach out? Do they show up? Do they realize what they're missing? If they don't, then that tells you something important. If they do, then you've created the opportunity for something deeper to unfold. This also empowers you. You are no longer reacting or overgiving. You are choosing how and when to give your energy. You become more deliberate, more composed. And that self-control is attractive. It communicates that your world doesn't revolve around someone else's attention, that you know your worth and aren't afraid to step back when necessary. In a world where people are constantly chasing connection, being someone who can withdraw with grace and strength stands out. It creates a contrast, a gap that others want to fill. And in that gap, desire builds. Not because you've disappeared, but because you've allowed space for your presence to be missed. That is the quiet power of strategic withdrawal. And it's often the very thing that turns a passing interest into a lasting obsession. In the age of constant communication where messages fly back and forth all day and attention spans shrink by the second, the idea that more is better has taken hold of how we show interest. But here's the truth. Being constantly present in someone's life doesn't make you unforgettable. What leaves a lasting impact is not quantity, it's quality. Not how often you're there, but how you show up when you are. Purposeful presence, the kind that makes someone stop, feel, and remember, will always outweigh constant, shallow contact. Imagine someone who texts you all day with nothing meaningful to say. At first, it might feel flattering, but eventually it becomes noise. Now imagine someone who appears less frequently, but every interaction leaves you feeling uplifted, challenged, or seen. Which one do you think will linger in your mind longer? The human brain is wired to hold on to emotional spikes, moments of significance, connection, or tension. These are the moments that create memory, desire, and ultimately obsession. When your presence is purposeful, you become a moment instead of just another message in their inbox. What makes someone mentally unforgettable is the feeling they create in a room, in a conversation, in a short encounter that hits a little deeper than expected. It's the way they carry themselves with confidence, speak with intention, and listen like they're truly present. These things leave marks. You don't need to flood someone's day with attention to be on their mind. You just need to be the kind of presence they remember when you're gone. Purposeful presence is also about emotional focus. When you're with someone, are you distracted, multitasking, thinking about what to say next? Or are you fully locked in, curious, listening, and responding with thought and authenticity? The latter makes someone feel valued. And when someone feels truly valued in your presence, they want more of that feeling. That's how you become magnetic, not by being available all the time, but by being undeniable when you are available. Ironically, the people who are the most present in our daily lives are often the ones we overlook. It's those who give us a sudden spark of energy, insight, or emotion, then step away that we find ourselves thinking about. We wonder when they'll return, what they're thinking, and why that one moment stayed with us. That's the power of showing up with intention and stepping away with grace. You don't need to chase someone to keep their attention. You just need to give them something real to remember. So if you want to become someone's mental obsession, stop trying to be constantly seen and start focusing on how you make others feel when you're around. Make your presence a rare but meaningful gift. Walk into every interaction with purpose. Make people pause. Make them feel. And when you walk away, leave a silence that echoes louder than 1,000 words. That's how you linger. That's how you stay unforgettable.